we will be having a chit with you. Let's vote for the timer. Can I know the qualified speakers?
All the speakers are qualified.
So that we have 3 speakers. You can vote for the best speaker. Can I have balance?
Should I wait till it's in there?
Have balance. Okay, we'll move on to the next session. The next session is going to be an education session. Team, again I will go back. Somebody should believe in you for you to have faith. There is a beautiful saying. If you have, either you have belief in yourself or have the belief in the person who believes in you. This is the thing. I learned this from Mohan. Some certain things when I recently working with Mohan in close proximity for Mentee and a few other projects. So when you work, I thought whether can I do this? Mohan immediately said, okay, it's okay, I can just do it in that way. So this particular learning, either you have belief in yourself or have a belief in the person who got belief in you. This is what another success for a team. Mohan gives that particular confidence into whomever he works with. He's going to give us an education session about storytelling. Over to you, Mohan.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So today we will just discuss a story formula, typical story formula, and I'll request for a volunteer to come and give a 3-minute story. Can I have the volunteer raise the hand right away? Arjun. 3-minute story. Not right away. Not right away. Okay. And then all of us will join in and give him feedback. No, not really. We'll take the formula and take the story and then marry and then see what all worked in the story according to the formula. So very first question. We all are passionate about telling stories, right? How many of you tell stories on a daily basis? All of you, right? Hey, I was coming in the bus here, you know what happened, that happened, this happened, I was driving, the traffic in Seapiram on the road. I mean, we tell stories all the time, everything is a story. So storytelling is not rocket science. I'm just going to share whatever I've been reading and watching several videos after joining Toastmaster. That's about it today. So really we are telling stories. I am sure we have discussed few stories even before the meeting started. Achintya coming late is a story. She discussed quietly which person she's come.
She has come.
Okay, that is a story, right? Okay, there's a past story about her always coming late, or somebody told Vijay will walk in at 3:05, walk in at 3:04. So we tell stories all the time. So only thing is we are going to discuss story in a speech context. I just want to make it very clear. In a speech, how do you embed a story and make it more effective? I think that is where storytelling in a Toastmaster scenario and a speech scenario comes. Second thing I want to also tell you, it's becoming very, very popular in corporate setting. Many US companies have corporate storyteller. Okay. Quickly in Procter & Gamble, about several years back, maybe 20 years back, a young scientist called Jim joined. And again, he's a researcher, so every month he has to publish a memo. He will document what all happens in R&D, and then what products are in progress, and what is the status, and all this stuff, and publish to all the departments in P&G. Now he got bored. After a year, his job was so sickening, he didn't want to write the memo, but that is part of his job. He came up with a brilliant idea. He started creating characters, and naming the characters, defining the characters, and having conversations between characters. Those are R&D characters, and started telling the story in the memo, the same memo, boring memo, converted into a beautiful story, a set of stories or dialogues, and then people started reading. They were waiting for the memo instead of memo which was just thrown away. People started waiting for the memo. Later, he also started creating characters from sales, finance, and manufacturing and other departments. So it became a true corporate memo involving a lot of people. And only thing is, he will not use the direct names. So the CEO found this out and realized the communication what Jim was doing from a corner in R&D was much more powerful than what he was communicating in terms of reachability to the employees. So he made him a corporate storyteller, first appointment, such appointment in P&G, and more importantly, many policy changes and any communication to employees, he started using Jim's memos. So such is the power of story. So I just wanted to give you this right from telling a kid to giving in a speech to actually using in corporate. In fact, Samiksha was talking about Steve Jobs. He is considered the finest corporate storyteller. Every product launch was a story. Please see iPhone 7 launch, the YouTube video is still there. Every product launch is a story, a speech, a story. So we are going to talk about story in a speech structure. The very first learning I will share with you, in fact I used it in my earlier this year's ISC. I always thought the story has to be part of a speech. The entire speech could be a story. If some of you who might remember my speech earlier this year, the entire speech was a story between me and my daughter, and the bonding was not there, and whether the bonding will happen or not. That is the whole story, right? There was nothing else in the, nothing else added in the story. So I tried that intentionally to see whether a speech can be entirely a story or a part of a speech can be a story. Both are perfectly alright. And when you see World Championship speeches, you can see a lot of, I would say some additions at the beginning and the end and the middle to create humor and entertainment value. Right? You would have seen Jim Key and other speeches. Guess I'm talking about Toastmaster speeches. Classic speech will have a story, but around the story there will be a little humorous value or entertainment related to the content. It could be never late to dream or reach out for help. That could be the message which a story is constructed, speech is constructed, right? So that is also perfectly okay. Yes, it could be a part of a speech or an entire speech by itself. Now, first I want to talk about Pixar template very quickly. That is a classic, very simple template, and every Pixar movie is supposed to follow this template. It starts like once upon a time, setting the context. Okay, every day the product. So first setting the context sets the character and the context. Character is the protagonist. So he or she, and the character doesn't have to be a human being, right? I mean, so I'm not only referring to the animated movies, but also even when you give a speech, a table or a notebook or diary in our club level contest evaluation speech, the diary was the character. How many of you agree? Do you remember? Right? I forgot her name from Miami. Anjali was talking about diary, and part of the speech was about diary, and diary actually was a character, like diary talking back to her and things like that. So, just to be creative, so once upon a time, every day the protagonist does something, every day he does something. Until one day things change. Okay, this is where a conflict or a hook is created. So first setting the context, character, extremely important, and then you go and hit the conflict or the hook, which is where the audience, you will actually create a gripping experience for the audience. And there's how powerfully you create this hook or conflict is the reason why the audience will stay through the story or the speech. If you don't create a powerful hook or conflict, you lost the audience right there, right? And then, so until one day this happens, and just because this happened, after that, a series of things happened, and finally, the climax in a typical movie. In our case, you can call it a resolution, and then what happens after that. So basically, to make it, this is a Pixar template, actual Pixar template, and it's very, very simple. Again, it is probably designed by Steve Jobs. I don't know, but it is definitely a Pixar template, widely discussed if you see the web also. So, in our paradigm, it is about setting the character or context. Extremely important. Very, 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 very specific. Where it happens, how it happens, who is the person, describing the person, the protagonist is extremely important to set the initial context and character for the audience to understand, take them to the location where it happens, transport them to the place, and introduce the character to the audience to set the context and character. And then hook or conflict you create when things are challenged for the protagonist to meet, right? And again, please be creative. It is not only the hero. The hero is not he or she is not doesn't have to be a human being hero. It can be anything, okay? And then you give a resolution. Now, what happens is when you create a hook or conflict, is where the protagonist is not able to meet something. Somebody is challenging. The audience mind, you are creating a suspense whether the protagonist will be able to achieve the goal or the challenge will win. In a typical movie, it's a hero-villain scenario. Who will win, hero or villain? Every movie follows that. Every movie we watch umpteen times, we keep watching. The formula is the same. If you apply, the formula is the same. And what you can do is, after the hook or conflict, you can also give an escalation. And in movie, multiple escalations happen, right? Many times, the hero will be challenged multiple times by the villain. Actually, that's all because of the length of the duration of the movie also. So escalation, finally you give a resolution. Okay, everything ends, mostly ends well, even if it doesn't end, like Titanic, right? It resolves with Jack dying. And finally, in speeches and also true in telling a story, what happens after the resolution is very important. In inspiration and speech, how did you apply? Like Priyanka season was prime time. The resolution in her speech is when her grandfather tells her about, see, look how memorable your speech is. Am I right? So the grandfather tells her about prime time, allocating a prime time and prioritizing. That is the whole learning from her grandfather. Through the hook and conflict, she understands, from her grandfather. That is how to run the life. And then how she applies the prime time in her day-to-day life. What I call resolution. Extremely important to inspire the audience, or if it is a persuasive, to call for action. Okay, setting the character context, Arjun, character context, your next intro. Conflict, if you can escalate, resolution, and how you really apply. Or you want the audience to apply. It could be inspirational, it could be persuasive. As most of you will understand, we will not get into very specifics of the inspirational and persuasive. Are you with me? Does it make sense? So this is the template. Now request for Arjun to come and give a short speech. And then, Arjun, you're okay, right? Any speech, what you have given already you subscribe.
No.
And then what we will do is take this template and apply, and then see if it makes sense. And welcome. All of you observe keenly. I may not remember everything.
How many of you have heard of ninjas? Okay, so I'm going to talk about a story which first came to mind when we said storytelling. It's about Naruto. How many of you are familiar with Naruto? So this story is set in a land of ninjas. Here, everything is same except the people have powers. It's sort of like magic, but not exactly magic. Here they can manipulate elements. They can manipulate water, earth, air, and ground. So here, Naruto is the protagonist. He is the son of the leader. This story is set in a village, and this village has a leader. Now imagine a country like India. Imagine that is the setting of this story, and there are only 5 prominent villages in this country, and we are talking about one such village. So in this village there is a leader, and the leader. Okay, Naruto is a kid of around 7 years old. His parents passed away some years back in a tragedy, and he lives alone. So what happened when? So how did Naruto's parents pass away? That forms the crux of the story. So.
He was a failure in school.
Yeah, something. Okay.
Someday something happens.
Every day, what is it?
Yeah. So his problem, actually, what happened was that there was a huge monster which attacked this village, and he didn't know. It was the day he was born, and this monster was sealed in a ball of energy into Naruto to protect the village. Just protect the village. And what happens when he grows up? His parents sacrifice themselves in that battle. So when he grows up, people know that he is an innocent person. There is nothing wrong. He is just an innocent child. But there is a monster sitting inside him. So people automatically imagine that you are in that village. Imagine that you are parents and students in that village, and you know that this kid is innocent, but there is a monster inside him which he is not aware of. What will you do? Your natural instinct is to say, okay, no, I don't know, he might be dangerous. It's better to simply stay away from him. So that's what those people also did. So eventually he was completely ostracized by everyone in that village, and he was completely alone. And he was very confused. at the age of 7, he lived alone, fed himself, and he was an idiot at school also. He couldn't get things the way people did because there was no one to teach him at home. And he did hard work. He just wanted to be recognized as a person. No one recognized him. No one, even he didn't have any friends because all parents asked their sons and daughters not to go near this child. They wouldn't tell the reason why, but they wanted to stay away from this kid who had a monster inside him. So what he did was, instead of simply brooding about it and instead of simply accepting that as his fate, he decided to be recognized. He decided to just simply put in hard work and be recognized and become the next leader of the village. Even though he was very bad at all these, it's called ninjutsu, magic which they do is called ninjutsu. He decided to become very strong at that, and every day he used to practice day in and day out. And eventually, people slowly started accepting his powers. And the story goes on and on. But the card is Too hard. Okay, so we shift like 4 years into. So 4 years is around. I think 2 years he does this, and eventually he becomes the leader of the village. So the resolution of the story, I guess, is no matter what the odds, no matter how bad the situation is, if you simply have a goal and put in hard work towards that goal, no matter how long it takes, even if you fail so many number of times, eventually you will get that. So don't ever give up on that goal. That is the core message behind this story.
I think what is the kid's name, by the way?
Naruto.
Okay, so how was setting the context? Could you see Naruto?
Yes.
How old was he? How does he look? One caution I have, I'm going to describe the entire template. In a typical speech, it will be abridged, even in our speeches, right? So you can set the context only in 30 seconds because you need to get to the main conflict. But just for analyzing, we will take. So context, Naruto, how many of you could see Naruto? How was he? Small kid. How old was he? 7. See, one of the things in storytelling is, do you see what the speaker saw, right? Is he able to bring it on stage? Do you feel what the speaker felt, right? That is emotional transfer. We'll talk about emotional transfer. We'll talk about that a little bit if I have time, if Tushar gives me time. So, context setting, any suggestion on context setting? Anything you felt, Arjun, I'm just taking an analytical view, okay? You may get some feedback, so don't mind. So in context setting, would you do it differently? Village, Naruto, yes, Priyanka, what will you do?
No, if you have time to plan it better, then you could have gone into it faster.
Some more details?
More organized.
Is it some more details or more organized?
More specific.
Okay. Okay. So
Son of a leader, then he's explained.
It's not only about your story, in general we are talking about. So in 30 to 45 seconds, you have to be very specific to bring the character on stage, to bring the context on stage. I think you did a good job of getting the village, Naruto and things like that. So where was the conflict or hook?
Besides feeling that he wants to be recognized.
Now apply the formula, just see if you're... See, basically, Naruto's boy is in the village, context is setting, every day something happens, obviously he didn't go into details. And something happens.
His parents are killed by
monster is the conflict.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, correct, around the conflict happens around that. Are you with me? All of you with me? Anybody, please feel free to defer or So basically, when things change is the conflict. Okay, there is no hard and fast definition. When do things change? When the monster comes and attacks and kills the parents, is where the conflict. So what is the challenge the kid is facing? People are avoiding. So what is in the audience mind? Whether this kid will be able to come back to a normal life or not. Right? That is the remaining part of the story, how you complete. So I think let's give him a big hand. He did a good job. Of course, now we gave him 3 minutes, it was unfair, so otherwise in the flow he could have finished the resolution, came back and finished the resolution, being persistent with a goal in mind he is going to reach. So are you all with me?
Yes.
The same thing, now what are the, I'll give you a few tips now. So typically what they say is, the audience should see what they say, what the speaker saw, could he reproduce on the stage, and could he connect emotionally with the audience, could they feel what they feel. Let's say my mom was sick in the hospital, I am in the hospital. Do you share the feelings? You may not know my mom, but could you understand that, no, my mom is sick, she's really ill and all those stuff, I'm very upset, and so I'm able to transfer that experience to you. Okay. Now, how do you transfer, in storytelling, what are the most important attributes? Gestures, facial expressions, and voice. These 3 convey emotion. Now, one of the very important things is 40% of the audience are visual learners. 40% can learn through visuals, seeing visuals, right? It's a data available, right, across the world. 40% are auditory learners. They learn through voice, through hearing, right? And then 20% are kinesthetic learners. Typically, kinesthetic is learning by doing. This is how, when you say 100 people, 40, 20 is a typical composition. But we don't know whether Priyanka is a visual learner or auditory learner, I don't know. But I know you guys are spread by inner wiring. It's not going to change today. So by telling a well-told story connects to all 3 types of audience. So visual learners are, in our paradigm, it is CC4, Project 4. You create vivid descriptions. Setting the context is the visual this thing. So you capture the attention of the 40% of the audience. Auditory is through voice, vocal variety. You drop the voice when you are sad, joy, you show exuberant voice and all those stuff, right? You use pitch and volume to, and also pause very effectively. So you can use different aspects of vocal variety to connect with the learners, the auditory learners. And kinesthetic learners you connect through emotion. And emotions are through gestures, facial expressions, and voice again, right? So this is one of the reasons why storytelling is powerful. A well-told story has the best probability of connecting with all kinds of audience, because you have to integrate voice, visual pictures, and also emotions, right? And coming to facial expressions, there are 7 global facial expressions: happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, contempt, disgust. This is research across the world, from US to India to Japan to tribals who cannot speak, who are not spoken a language. It has been researched. They understand when you show surprise, it is surprise, they understand. So these 7 facial expressions are extremely powerful. So communicating using facial expression is a very, very powerful tool in storytelling. So I'll stop here. Yellow card has come. Any quick questions? We definitely have another 2-3 minutes. Any questions, feel free to ask. Yeah.
So, okay, if it's a classic story like Janani giving from the epics, okay.
Yeah.
So, what was after the post-conflict, the post-resolution, like you said, you were comparing with Priyanka's.
Correct, yeah.
So after that, she's inspiring, she inspired or she motivated.
Yeah.
So, for example, Janani gave us this today. So that also has a resolution. So,
the breaking into pieces. Right, that is the end of our
The resolution is that both of the bones failed and became curses.
Okay.
So that also need kind of post, like some inspiring or motivating factor.
Correct. Now in her case, it's folktale very clearly defined. If you see 5 different projects in storytelling, so any of those projects will focus more on a story, different types of story, a folktale or a drama or a personal or touching story. If you see the 5 different stories, so inspirational or persuasive speech is little outside of the manual definition. That's all. See, if it warrants, she could have done it. She probably didn't go into message or a realization because it's not required as part of the project.
In the typical structure, you don't have to.
I was saying story within inspirational or a persuasive speech. I was just saying when you embed, make sure there is humor and entertainment relating to the core story. To give you an example, Jim Key's 2003 speech, it's never too late to dream. You would have seen that. In that, the humor is also related to a movie called Rookie, which is the oldest drafted baseball player in the US. 38 years he joined professional baseball. When typically people join right after school or college, 18, 19, 20, right? So 38, he achieved his ambition of joining a professional baseball. He was a rookie first year at 38 years old. So that is where he starts the story. So it's very related. So the humor is around watching the movie, having dialogue with his children after the movie. And then actually it takes the whole context of it's never too late to dream, you also dream. So that is where I was just telling. When you embed a story, you have a preamble, post-amble. Preamble typically they use humor. Post-amble typically they use inspirational persuasive. That's all I was saying. It could be entire story also, but it always for effective speech have some entertainment, have a persuasive or inspirational link for a ISC kind of speech. Yeah.
So in every story there will be a set of details which is not related to the core message of the story, like the context. Like in my story, the country and the fact that he was a ninja was not really necessary for the core message.
Correct.
So would it be better to maybe use a presentation or something to just show that to save time, and then maybe focus on the core message when you're, because the audience will immediately know what you're talking about when they see an image of the say village or something.
Yeah.
And you just focus on the emotions and bringing out the emotions and the core message when you're giving a speech. Is that a good idea?
Okay. In a 5 to 7 speech, showing a visual is very difficult. I always feel that.
Okay.
Because it's better to create the visual using your language and the way you use the terminology, being very specific in your language, date and time and location and all those stuff, and compare it to metaphorically something people can relate to. That is what CC4 says. That is the best way in a short speech. It's my personal opinion. Because anything you use extra people, you don't have time actually in a 5 to 7 minute speech. In a longer speech, yes, you can use visuals, shut it off, and then continue with the speech. Perfectly alright. It is being used as a problem. So any other question? Last question I will take.
Okay, does it make a difference if I speak as a third person or just narrate some story in a setting, or I be part of a story? Does that make a difference? Me being part of myself being a protagonist, does it make it very impactful, or it's the same whether I am a narrator or a protagonist?
Okay, absolutely. See, there are two. When you narrate something personal, that's the best because it gives credibility. Nobody can question your story, right? Suppose I narrate, nobody can question that. But I take somebody else's story, typical available public domain story, people would know. Right away the connect is lost, that's what they say. Because they know, I know the story, what is Mohan up to. So personal story increases credibility tremendously. Then it's only how you narrate is the message to be taken. So you take off 50% of the problem, which is credibility. So always good to narrate. And second thing is, do you have to be the protagonist? The tip here is, you can be the protagonist or you can have your friend or dad to be the protagonist. But actually, anything you do, you pick a story where you learn something from somebody. In short, you don't be the hero of your stories. Because it's not that you know everything. You pick a story where you learn something. Again, Priyanka learned from her. She was not the hero of the story. Her grandfather was the hero who fixed a problem for Priyanka, and Priyanka appeared in real life. Right? So the tip is, don't try to be the hero because people disconnect. When it's more like a preaching mode. If you want to connect to the audience emotionally, you were struggling and you don't have to make it up. You take a story, all of us struggle through somebody else, right? You take a story, personal story where somebody else was the hero of your life. And then how you apply. That connects better because everybody goes through struggle in their life. They are looking for somebody to come and encourage. Yeah, one more question. Yeah, here I want to also say dialogues are extremely important. Once you write your speech or the story, dialogues. In fact, we spoke when you read. Dialogues. So make sure, like typical speech here, dialogues actually have a lot more space for emotions than you narrating. Okay, dialogues, when you have dialogue between two characters, you can emote much better. So you are creating the platform for emotion. Then it is up to us to use the gestures, facial expression, voice to emote. But creating a platform is through dialogues. So always have dialogues instead of plain narration as much as you can. Yeah.
What tense we need to tell the story?
What tense you can do?
Past tense or present?
No, when you actually have dialogues, naturally you will resort to, you set the context and resort to present tense. That's what I believe.
Which makes story to very impressive. Which had happened past.
Yeah.
which way you tell?
Yeah, correct, because you're transporting the audience. That's what I'm saying. You can use dialogues and narrate in present tense. And the reason why you can do is you already transported to the audience to your time. You don't have to transport again. You just said 5 years back this happened. So I was talking to Ram and we were having a dialogue. Then whole thing can be narrated in present tense. Because people are, it is live on stage. You are actually reproducing something which happened. And people will recognize that. You can narrate in present tense, but set the context when it happened. Be very specific. Then you can run it as if it's happening today. Okay? So any other questions? We'll take it offline. Thank you very much.